Lynn, thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity to come and have a talk about a wonderful little project I like to call Predator-Free Wellington. I am going to attempt to share my screen because we've just got a bit of a presentation to run through. Now look, I'm sitting here in the sunny Bay of Plenty in Tauranga today, so hopefully all this technology will work seamlessly. I'll just give it a shot. Okay, can everybody see that all right?
Yes.
And I'm coming through loud and clear?
Yes, all good, James.
Fantastic, thank you. So the purpose of this presentation today is to share some of our journey to date. So the people that we've met, the experiences we've had in our learning. So that's all focused around the Miramar Peninsula, and that's the first phase of our broader eradication program. But before I go into the detail around Miramar, I just thought in terms of context, it would be useful to explain the project in its entirety. So that screen there is the whole project area for Predator-Free Wellington. So it's about 30,000 hectares all up, and it's basically all of the land south of the boundary between Porirua and Wellington City. So our vision is to create the world's first predator-free capital city, where both our communities and our native species thrive. So that means removing every last rat, every last possum, every last weasel, and every last stoat from 30,000 hectares. So something that's never been done in the world before. Our strategy really has two arms. So the first arm is some of the work that some of your members are involved in and you're just talking about. And that's enabling this huge kind of social movement through the city in terms of backyard trapping. So we support all of the different suburbs doing their bit to achieve this goal. And then the second part of our strategy is to come in with a very precise eradication process and remove those final animals before we then step on to other phases. So you can see there our first phase is Miramar Peninsula. And we chose that because we thought actually we could defend that. So our model is remove and protect. So remove those predators and then do everything we can to stop them getting back. So we've got that little isthmus of land there by the Wellington airport, and we've got a virtual barrier system in there, which is lots of traps and bait stations at very high density. So traps every 10 meters to try and prevent things coming back through. So if we think about, focus on that phase one area, Miramar Peninsula, that's what we're involved in at the moment. So let's go. So we started out with this incredibly ambitious goal to eradicate every rat, every stoat, and every weasel off Miramar Peninsula. Possums were removed by the Regional Council in the early 2000s. And that's about 1,200 hectares, or in Kiwi speak, about 1,200 rugby fields. And then, of course, extending into Kilpuni and Rongotai as part of the barrier system. In terms of our recipe, just to give you an idea of what's involved, there's 4,500 bait stations, 2,500 double set traps, which are huge traps in 900mm long boxes, 1,000 additional traps, 13,000 wax tags and chew cards, which are little devices we use to monitor where rats or mustelids will come and chew on it, and we can identify what's there based on their chew marks. And 26 field staff servicing this network every single week for 26 weeks. So basically that meant that you could walk in any direction about 25 meters and you'd see some of our kit on the ground out there in Miramar. So incredibly intensive network. It also involved 100 traps from the Backyard Predator-Free Miramar group, and as well as other community groups like Places for Penguins, Tim Pankhurst and Te Motu Kairangi. It also involved hundreds of kilograms of peanut butter, and I just need to give a shout out to our fantastic mates at Fix and Fog who produce some of the world's best peanut butter right here in Wellington. They've given us hundreds of kgs, about 480 kilograms of peanut butter absolutely free. So incredibly lucky to have that relationship with them. And nice to know that our rats are dying on the finest product for perhaps last meal. So that's something that we can do just to facilitate that. So the logistics for this project, when you think about all of those thousands of devices out there, was absolutely huge. But to get this even started, we needed over 3,000 individual permissions. So those thousands of maps thousands of dots you can see on the map there, they represent people's homes, their businesses, schools, parks, public areas, everywhere. We had a bait station every 50 meters across that entire peninsula and a trap every 100 meters. So we had to build thousands of relationships to enable this to happen. And the level of public engagement is unprecedented. It's been absolutely huge. So for us, that involved going around and knocking on doors, having thousands of cups of tea with people, talking through the operation, and making sure we're allaying any concerns. We had all sorts of kind of interesting experiences through this. We had one particular gentleman who wouldn't sign up to have a bait station or a trap until one of our team members sat there and played about 4 or 5 covers of Beatles songs on the guitar. So all of these kind of interesting interactions going into people's homes. So our context means that we've got an unparalleled opportunity to affect some real social outcomes as part of this. So we're actively involved in people's lives, going onto their house, into their business every week for well over 6 months. And that's about building trust. You know, that really is huge. It's not just about gaining permission so we could do our work. The success of the project really, really relies on everyday Wellingtonians stepping up to do their bit. So whether it's people in the backyard getting their hands dirty, trapping rats, or fielding information to us, letting us know about the birds or lizards that are turning up, our little team of 26 has turned into a team of thousands across the city. And we had things like people stopping us in the street, telling us that they'd seen pewaka in their backyard, fantail for the very first time, or kereru. People would message us if they saw signs of rat activity or if they wanted to be involved. So the social outcomes for us are just as important as increasing the biodiversity. So for a project like Predator-Free Wellington, having the city on board and committed, it's not a nicety, it's an absolute essential. And I'll give you an example. So this picture you can see here of this gentleman, he's Daryl. Daryl is a Strathmore resident, which is a suburb on Miramar Peninsula. Now, suffice to say, he's had a number of challenges in his life and spent quite a bit of time in and out of prison. But he first started getting involved with Predator-Free Miramar because he couldn't sleep at night. So he contacted the backyard group, got himself a trap and managed to catch 24 rats in the first 2 weeks. So his motivation for getting involved was quite different. You know, he's in a state house and he couldn't sleep at night. He tells stories of opening up his hot water cupboard and seeing dozens of sets of red eyes staring out at him, and they were all the rats crawling over his place. But his energy and commitment has spread throughout Strathmore. So he started getting his neighbours involved, started getting other people involved. And he rolled out a whole bunch of traps through this area, which is incredible. And our weekly trap and bait station checks meant going into people's backyards. And while we had 99% support to go and do that, not everyone wanted us in their backyards. And this is really where Daryl came into his own. So because of his skills and being able to connect with his community and the relationships he built over time in a pretty tough area of town, that was huge for us. So he approached us about getting involved in volunteering, and he's been with us for over 6 months now. And having him as part of the team has enabled us to get access to areas like the Black Power gang pad, other marginalised communities, state homes that just otherwise we wouldn't have been able to get into. So, you know, it's been huge. And while Daryl struggled to find ongoing employment out of this, we've really invested in building his skills, his capability, and he's just going great guns. He's just one of thousands of Wellingtonians stepping up to do their bit. And I guess the point being, the motivations might be different, but the goal is the same. So we've got hugely diverse groups of people stepping up, contributing in different ways, and that is epic. That is one of the most amazing things about this project. Predator-Free Wellington really is great for the city, and it's great for its people, and it's great for our native biodiversity. It's building strong, resilient, connected communities, all united under the shared vision, everyone moving in the same direction. And look, this slide you can see here is actually the title screen from a recent documentary that was made around Daryl. So he's also known as the Rat Man in Strathmore. It charts his and his family's journey and just what the backyard trapping has meant for him. And look, it is an absolutely fantastic watch. It's only 17 minutes long, and I'm sure we could get the link circulated afterwards via Denise, but I really encourage you to watch that if you can. It is a fantastic insight into the movement and into someone else's life. Of course, for us, trying to deliver something that's never ever been done anywhere before in the world means that there's going to be a heap of learning opportunities along the way. And we've had to continually adapt, continually pivot and move throughout this entire operation. We've had our team of 26 field operators crawling over every corner of Miramar for about 8 months now, and they know it really intimately. They've also handed out some interesting nicknames. So that large photo you can see there is affectionately known as Nappy Valley, where we've had to go in and clean up a whole lot of dumped nappies, food waste, and so forth. The top photo is a photo of Josh in an area affectionately known as the bakery, and that was an area where hundreds and hundreds of pieces of bread were dumped. Of course, we have to go and clean that up because rats aren't going to go into traps or bait stations if they've got all this lovely food on offer. And that meant continuously negotiating with people to get access. You know, we came across a whole lot of things we just otherwise, we wouldn't have expected. Another example that comes to mind was a gentleman who's on home detention, and that bottom shot is of his basement. So all of his food and all of his rubbish was just getting bagged up and thrown under the house. So surprise, surprise, massive rat problem in that particular location. So that navigating that tricky space with people needing to go into their place was amazing. We didn't have a big stick. You know, we needed people to step up and say, yeah, I want to be part of this. I'm happy for you to come onto my property. We've been incredibly lucky to work with some amazing people. We've also had other challenges like an active construction zone in the Cobham Drive cycleway. That's part of our barrier system, and with all those big trucks rumbling through, every time a truck would go past, all of our traps would get set off, and we'd have to go back out there and get everything sorted again. Another truck would come through and do the same thing. So it's just been a really dynamic learning environment. And one of the big learnings for us was adapting from a traditional technical conservation mindset to one that puts people at the centre. Of course, Predator-Free Wellington feeds into a national vision, you know, this goal of getting rid of all these introduced predators throughout our entire country by 2050. And we think, based on our experience, if we have any hope of delivering this on a national level by 2050, then we really need to start thinking about this differently. You know, our biggest challenge had nothing to do with predator ecology or animals. It's all to do with us, all to do with humans. There's also another reason why this has never been done before is because it's really, really tough. I won't mince around that at all. It's hard, hard work. And many, many things used to keep me up at night, that's for sure. Not least of which knowing there's thousands of bait stations out there, thousands of traps in the environment. And where we're at currently is mopping up the last shipwrecks on Miramar Peninsula. So we have these last little cells of activity, and that means really, really honing in. And one of these zones you can see there in the photo. So that's just the pine tree where there's still rat activity. And what it's taken for us to shut that down is a whole lot of different devices just on this one tree. And you can see there's a kamati trap, there's 3 ratabait strikers, there's a separate bait station with pellets in it, there's a Victor trap, there's chew cards, there's wax tags, there's a trail camera, and just out of shot is a T-Rex trap, another type of trap. So it's literally about providing a complete smorgasbord of options to try and tempt these last rats to come and interact with something. So all of these different cells of activity have their own case files now. It's a little bit like solving a murder mystery. You know, there's little case files on each one of these cells where we go into and try and hunt these last individuals out. And that's where we're at now. And look, as well as some of the challenges like servicing bait stations in our international airport between 1 a.m. and 5 a.m., that was the only time we could go in there. You know, we had traps and bait stations on the runway all throughout the airport. There's been some incredibly positive learning experiences as well. And the big one around this is that people are amazing. So really, without the community deciding this is what they wanted for their neighborhood, their suburb and the city, this just wouldn't have happened. We don't have a big stick. We didn't want to go that route. So we put the goal out there and allowed for people to be involved in any way that they wished. And that's what we've seen. The commitment of community groups has been huge. You know, we've got thousands of sets of eyes and ears out there. Dog walkers checking traps for us. People coming to the community centre or the Miramar Library to take chew cards home to put in their backyards or buy their compost bins to monitor for us. So we've got this amazing network of people who give us the most kind of comprehensive monitoring network. You know, we're not an island, an offshore island. We can't put fences up, but what we do have is the thousands of people that are activated to let us know if anything goes on. And I'll just give you a quick story. You wouldn't have heard this yet, Denise, but last week, you know, when we went to level 2, our team was able to get back out on the ground, and one of our team members was servicing a trap, and a member of the public came running over and said, "Oh, I just went out to Petone yesterday to pick up an old couch, and I got the couch home, took it off my truck, and 3 rats ran out." So, you know, that is the kind of stuff that we're having to deal with. Managed to get 2 of them straight away, and 1 shot off towards Lyle Bay, so hopefully they'll be picked up. But I mean, that is our context. You know, we are working in a city where people live, they work, and they play. You know, it's not an offshore island, and that does present challenges, but it presents a huge opportunity for us as well. And when we went into the level 4 lockdown, you know, our team was unable to get on the ground and be servicing these traps and bait stations. So we put a big call out to the public. We launched a social cohesion comms and engagement plan, and people were checking the devices in their own backyards and letting us know. We had hundreds of emails coming in of support, hundreds of people letting us know if anything had turned up in traps or bait station. It was absolutely amazing, that the movement behind it all. And look, what are we starting to see? So we know that this is crunch time for New Zealand's biodiversity. You know, we lead the world in terms of the number of threatened and endangered species, and that's not a great thing. But we are starting to see amazing things on the peninsula and amazing things throughout our city. So it's building off a strong foundation of community effort. Community groups have been involved in predator trapping for a long, long time. Organisational leadership and our partners with regional council, city council, the Next Foundation, and PF 2050. And of course, our amazing Zealandia sitting in the middle of our city. You know, the outcome space for us is almost palpable with these incredible taonga species starting to spread out throughout the city. And it is making a difference. We are starting to see our native biodiversity bounce back. Our native wildlife, birds, lizards, and insects are all coming back. Our monitoring supports that. But what is even more incredible is people sharing their observations through social media. So we've set up our Facebook page, and we've got about a following of about 65,000 people throughout the city, which is pretty amazing. And these images you can see on your screen are all from people sharing their experiences. Now that first one is a kaka, so that's our endangered bush parrot, and that's actually taken in the grounds of Parliament. So in our capital city, in the grounds of Parliament, we've now got our native bush parrot creating a ruckus. It's pretty amazing. There's not going to be many capital cities in the world that have got that going on. That second shot is of a native Raukawa gecko, and that came in off the washing line. That's someone's sheet that they had hanging up on the washing line in Miramar. And that third shot there is of a karearea, so that's our native falcon. I think there's only about 4,000 pairs of those left in the world, and that photo is actually taken on Willcocks Street, right in our CBD, up on the 5th story. Now we've got these amazing birds taking the city back over. And from a few weeks ago, that final shot is of a shore plover that turned up on Miramar Peninsula. There's less than 300 of those left in the world. So that's a little bit like a takahe turning up on a beach in Miramar and having a pot around. This is our capital city. This is incredible. So we now have a generation growing up where kaka, karearea, and kakariki, to name but a few, are part of their lives. And that is a huge reward for this collective effort. And it's truly worth celebrating. That's pretty amazing. And just to note as well, during lockdown, we had kaka and kakariki, our red-crowned parakeet, turning up on Miramar Peninsula for the very first time. So photos being shared of that, which is pretty amazing. Look, I'll leave that there. That's a few of the comments that we continually, come through on our Facebook feed and other social media. If you want to stay connected, then please do. We do have our Predator-Free Wellington Facebook pages. We have our email, hello@pfw.org.nz. We have an 0800 number, 0800 no rats, and we've just launched on LinkedIn as well. So we're really about finishing off Miramar and then getting our planning underway for phase 2. And that phase 2, for those of you in Wellington, is basically from the coast at Whero Bay through to the CBD. And that's an area where about 70 to 80,000 people are living. So our engagement there is going to be huge. That's like Miramar plus on steroids, about 4 to 5 times the population. And so we do have these funding challenges. We've got a great, baseline funding in place with our core partners, but we really want to speed up and scale. And so for us, it's making sure we can bring others on board to ensure we can undertake that meaningful engagement, knock on all of the houses, the 70, 80,000 people involved. So we want to keep moving, and we want to keep moving fast. You know, Miramar really was our proof of concept, and now we want to scale up, scale up, and scale up. So that's the journey we're on. And of course, in this time of post-COVID-19, it's a bit of a challenge, but we'll keep going, keep moving, because the city wants this to happen. So it's our job to deliver on it. And look, just my final point on Miramar, we've had no evidence of Norway rats. Norway rats are the big ones. They get up to about 0.5 kg for 3 months now. No evidence of stoats or weasels for about 3 months. And we're just hunting down these last ship rats. So not a bad place to be. We did lose basically 7 weeks with the lockdown, but the dedicated team from Predator-Free Wellington is back on the case. So great to be back out there. Great to have our army of volunteers who are able to help us for the first time. We've also had a mustelid dog out there, and they haven't picked up any sense of stoats or weasels. So that's where we're at.